What happens when you want a specific locomotive and it isn't accurate right out of the box? Well, you kitbash it yourself. In this next installment of The Joy of Kitbashing, we build a late model ALCO RS-1 from a variety of parts. Mexico's governmentally nationalized railroad, Nacionales de Mexico, was an avid purchaser of ALCO locomotives. They began buying the legendary RS-1s in February of 1950 and were the last railroad to order them new, the last of which rolled off the assembly line in Schenectady, New York in March of 1960. I'm modeling one of the later models, number 5645, which was built in August of 1957. As all locomotive manufacturers did as time progressed, later models differed in looks from the early variants. By 1957, ALCO was using round radiator fans on the roof, also used on their latter model RS-3s. I won this mismatched model off eBay for a song. This is a somewhat recent run of an Atlas Classic RS-1 model. Part number is on the screen. Apparently someone wanted what looks like a B&O shell for another project and then slapped an NdeM shell atop the drivetrain before selling it off. This poses no issues for me, as I intend to do a bunch more painting, weathering, and detailing to bring this to life. So, I set to work. Painting the frame required full disassembly, so the trucks, handrails, motor, and all the other details were removed carefully and set aside. Next, the frame got a bath in warm soapy water and left to dry on paper towels while I got the paint ready. I masked the bottom of the motor area to prevent paint from gumming up the screw threads. Then it was time for a spin in the paint booth using Tamiya Glass Black. Notice that both the prototype unit and my model had yellow sills, so I just masked off the Baltimore and Ohio yellow sills and kept them while the rest of the frame was painted black. Peeling off the tape reveals that it worked quite well, much better. While the locomotive is mostly disassembled, I wanted to begin weathering the frame before I reassemble it. Using a mix of dark burn umber and some weathering powder, I began coating the underframe matching prototype photos of the real locomotive. Once the first layer was done, I sealed it all with Tamiya Flat Clear. I repeated the process, matching the grime in the photos and then wiping away what wasn't present on the real engine. Next was a quick decoder swap. I used an NCE DA-SR decoder for this, as it was a 1-to-1 fit for the original Atlas board. For the next stage, I ordered some parts from Atlas directly. I got a set of red handrails, roller-bearing AAR Type B truck side frames, and a replacement horn. Part numbers are in the description. To get the round radiator fan, you can either buy an Atlas RS-3 shell and saw it off, or go even more bespoke and buy a 30-year-old Stewart RS-2 kit. Since I already had the ladder lying around from another kit bash, I opted for the Stewart kit. I managed to get one off of eBay for about $15. The advantage of the Stewart kit is that it's all molded in separate pieces, so it was easy to just pick the fan off a sprue versus sawing it out of a shell. Here's a rough mock-up of where it'll go, and now it's time to get to work. I began by carefully slicing off the square radiator intake with multiple scoring passes around all 4 sides until it popped off. Do not press too hard. Let a fresh blade do the work so you don't injure yourself. Now we have a round peg for a square hole, so how do we get there? Center the part on the hood and mark it with a fine line Sharpie pen. I cut away most of it using an X-Acto knife and then finished it off by using the round sanding bit from a Dremel to sand it by hand into a perfect circle. It worked very well. What will also work very well is liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing on this video. It looks a little tall here because it is. We'll cut it down soon, but first it's time to prime. When you need something painted a warm color, especially NdeM red, you want to use Tamiya Pink Primer to get the red to really pop. Next, I measured another RSD4 I had lying around to get the proper fan height off the top of the hood. It's about 70 thousandths of an inch. I use calipers to get accurate measurements, and they're an absolutely essential tool for kit bashing. Please pick up one if you don't already own one. After sanding the bottom down to the perfect height, it was glued in place. Next, I used Vallejo Red, which to my great surprise was a perfect match for the NdeM Red Atlas uses. The other part we need is the ladder exhaust stack design. Santa Fe also used these, and someone on Shapeways made a part for them that nearly perfectly fits into the RS-1 shell. Next, it was time to weather the hood and cab. Since the Atlas cabs are notoriously difficult to pop the glass into and out of, I opted for a liquid frisket to mask the windows to prevent paint and flat coat from ruining them. The funny thing is later, it didn't work and I had to break all the windows out and replace them with a fresh windshield, so add that to the parts list. First up was weathering and heat burning the exhaust stack, then it was on to the immense soot streak down the other side of the hood from all that idling. A few layers of grime later, including an overall wash of dark burnt umber to capture the overall grime, and the model was sealed with flat finish. Finally, I added AK Interactive fuel stains as streaks down the side of the fuel tank. The trucks also got a finish pass, and then it was time for handrails. Go slow and auger out any holes that have gotten a layer of gunk in them with a sharp X-Acto knife. Then, test run the model to ensure it works well, and only a couple final details remain. Put on the horn and some sunshades to perfect the look. The sunshades are made from 10,000ths thick brass sheet and 22 thou wire bent and installed in the cab after it was painted a canvas tan and weathered. The horn gets plopped on next. A weathering layer of grime and Vallejo oily steel makes the wear on the handrails look really realistic. The final detail, a bicycle for the crew to ride to lunch or to go back home with. If you'd like to build your own NdeM RS-1, the model is available on eBay for about $125. The parts from Atlas were about $20, and the 3D print parts were also under $20. Have fun with it! Atlas also produced NdeM RS-1s in both HO and N scale, so get inspired and embrace the joy of kitbashing. If you need any advice, join my Patreon, where as a patron you can ask me modeling questions directly. You'll also get to see behind-the-scenes modeling updates on all the cool projects I'm working on well before they appear as videos or articles. Have fun, and I hope to see you in the comments. This has been An Urban Era.